Thank you very much for joining us. Nearly all votes have been counted in Turkey, and it seems certain voters will be going back to the polls in 2 weeks' time. With more than 99% of ballot boxes opened, no presidential candidate has yet managed to pass 50% of the vote. Let's take a closer look at the figures as they stand. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has 49.41%. His main rival, Kemal Kilicdaroglu, has nearly 45%. That's according to state media. As results were coming in, President Erdogan said he'd be ready if the election went to a second round.
600.000 civarında fark attık.
We have seen that the margin with the closest opponent is more than 2 million votes, and with the final result we will see a wider margin. We don't know if we will have a runoff, but if this is the result of the first round, the results of the runoff will be the same. If our nation has decided to go to a second round, we will respect that decision.
Opposition presidential candidate Kemal Kilicdaroglu also said he'd be ready for a runoff.
Despite his smearing campaign against us, Erdogan hasn't gotten the result he wanted. We have to wait for the final results. If the first round wasn't enough to receive the mandate, we are going to get it in the runoff election.
A third presidential candidate, Sinan Ogan, has secured more than 5% of the votes so far. His endorsement could be crucial in a runoff. So far, he's refusing to back Erdogan or Kilicdaroglu.
It seems elections will go to second round, and Turkish nationalists and Kemalists will be the determinants of the runoff. Dear friends, there'll be another difficult 15 days ahead of us, and during this time, if the elections are completed with the current results and go to the second round, we will do our best to make this process a good one for our nation and our country. At this time, we are not saying that we will support one party or the other.
Well, we have two correspondents on this story. The Sahara will speak to Zeynep Hoxha in Gaziantep in just a moment. But first, let's go to Sinem Koseoglu, who's in Istanbul for us. So, Sinem, with most of the votes counted, it looks like we're headed to a runoff. Talk to us first about what we can expect in the next few hours.
Well, Paul, we are expecting the Supreme Election Board to announce the official results. So far, the results that we have been receiving since yesterday are coming from the agencies. And the agencies are gathering these data from the political parties. And now it's time for the blueprint documents to be counted. But it can take some time. Maybe we are not going to hear it today, maybe tomorrow, maybe in a couple of hours. It depends. But we are hearing that still the schools that have been used as polling stations yesterday, some of them are still full of ballot papers, ballot boxes. So the logistics are also binding here. But as the Supreme Election Board or Higher Election Board announces the official results, everything is going to be official. We are going to know that the exact votes that each candidate and each parliamentary member candidate received. Foley?
And so a runoff in 2 weeks, that's a long time. What can we expect from the candidates in that time?
Well, I can tell that many Turks are already tired because Turkey has been in an election atmosphere for the last nearly 2 years. And now there's a runoff and there are 2 more weeks, which means the candidates, the two candidates, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and the opposition candidate Kemal Kilicdaroglu, will continue campaigning depending on their plans, of course. So during those 2 weeks, they will try to analyze where they lost, where their parties were weak, and they will try to invest in those locations. For instance, I must mention President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's situation. We know that after the peace process with the Kurds have collapsed, the Kurds were kind of offended with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, especially the government's more security-oriented policies following the failed coup attempt, distanced the Kurds and the ruling AK parties. And in the southeastern regions where Kurdish-dominated cities are, the votes went for CHP, the Republican Party, to Kemal Kilicdaroglu. And probably Erdogan will analyze because he needs those votes. And definitely Sinan Ogan, who is the third candidate who made a great jump during this election. No one was expecting such a high turnout for him. He will be supporting either Erdogan or Kilicdaroglu, but everything depends on negotiations. So until the second round, it's all about negotiations. Foley?
Sinem, thank you for that. All about negotiations. Sinem Kilicdaroglu live for us there in Istanbul. Let's go now to Zena Hoda, who's in Gaziantep. For Zena, how are these results being viewed where you are?
Well, the president has the lead, but it is a slight lead. Very different than 2018 when he had an outright victory of 53% and his main contender had 33%. So it is being seen that the president did lose some support, whether it's because of the economy, whether the way the government handled the earthquake, the disaster in southern provinces, or whether he consolidated too much power and people were against that. But at the end of the day, he maintained his majority in parliament, he and along with his allies, which gives him the advantage, really, because even if the opposition wins in the runoff vote, if there is going to be a runoff vote, it will be very hard for the opposition to push through its promises to change the system of government back to a parliamentary system from a presidential one. And if Erdogan forms new alliances in parliament, he can call for a referendum and a new election. So a lot of uncertainties. And then there are those in the opposition who are also disappointed because they felt that the opposition, first of all, the Kilicdaroglu was the wrong candidate. He wasn't able to reach out and chip away the conservative votes from the president's party. And it's not just that, they're also questioning the alliance with the pro-Kurdish HDP, which the Turkish government considers a political wing of the PKK. So that also hurt the opposition. So both sides are going to have to, political calculations in the next days and the next few weeks if they're going to head to a runoff battle. And that third candidate that Sinem was talking about, he did say that he will not call on his supporters to vote for the opposition if the HDP, the pro-Kurdish party, is still part of that system. So a lot of backdoor dealings, negotiations in the coming days if that runoff vote is to take place.
OK, Zena, thank you for that. Zena Hoda live there in Gaziantep.